Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. I'm sitting in the Tony Awards suite in the Sofitel NYC, which is the official hotel of the 2019 Tony Awards, and I'm sitting with Ephraim Sykes, who was nominated for Best Featured Actor in a Musical for his electrifying performance as David Ruffin in the new musical Ain't Too Proud: The Life and Times of the Temptations. Well, first of all, thank you so much for sitting with me.
Thank you for having me.
Dapper as ever.
I try to be like you.
Well, what can I say? You were electrifying
Thank you.
as David Ruffin.
Thank you.
In Ain't Too Proud. Have you been able to put it all into perspective? Because you literally just opened.
Yeah, I really have not been able to put it all into perspective quite yet. It's been a whirlwind, to say the least, a roller coaster ride, all of those kind of things that, this is where you pretty much just have to trust the process, let go, and show up every day. And that's literally the best of what I can do. But it also makes it that much more thrilling. I haven't had a chance to sit and let it sink in and what is happening. I haven't really been able to do that because every day we got to wake up and hit it again. Every day it's another rehearsal. Like today we had the Tony rehearsal and things like that. So it's always something. And I'm on a speeding train right now and I'm loving it.
Was today the first time you had a Tony rehearsal?
We had one actually yesterday, but today we had it in front of the whole Tony producers, the committee. They wanted to tape it.
What was that like?
It's just, the house fills up with a bunch of guests that we've never seen before, but they're so expecting, just like the audience. And we give them let's show them what we got. And people are walking around with their iPhones pretending that they're big, huge cameras, and I'm trying to play with them and stuff like that. They're trying to say, okay, what kind of magic can we create? So you got Sergio running around all right, change the step on the spot in front of all these producers because this is going to look better on the air than what we originally did. So it's just it's a fun, kind of can be stressful, but just creative, organic kind of thing. It's an honor to be saying that I'm rehearsing for the Tony Awards. You know what I mean? Anytime that you get to say that, it's just wait.
It's a big deal.
Little dreams coming true. You know what I mean? It's a huge deal. And we got a great group, so we're having a good time together. All
right, let's talk about your choreographer. I had Sergio here earlier today.
Yep.
He did nothing but sing your praises.
Oh, good.
Because he said, I could get Ephraim anything.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, yeah, let's do that.
Let's figure it out. Me and him go back 10 years now, actually. Yeah, I did the show. I was the original cast of Memphis.
Sure.
And people ask me how do I do the splits in this show. Y'all haven't seen nothing till you see what Sergio had us doing in Memphis.
I
mean, switch leaps. He had me doing a double tour. You jump in the air, turn twice, and land in the split, and then come up. So this kind of stuff is actually, I was picking at the guys this is two-stepping for me versus what Sergio would really have us doing back in the day. But it was, and I remember that move in particular. I never thought in the world of doing that, and Sergio's hi, yes, try this, and I was okay, and we do stuff and we try it out, we make magic happen. So working with him, he's a visionary. He's still a dancer in his own body. He'll still kick his face right now. So he's why, if I can do it, why can't you? So he likes to play around, him and Edgar both. And Edgar is somebody that he's Sergio's associate.
Yeah.
And he's somebody I've always looked up to, and I've always almost mimicked the way he moves. He's danced with Michael Jackson back in the day, and it's my end all be all. So we get in the studio together and we just dream big and have fun like kids.
Okay, what's it like living in the world of David Ruffin? What an incredible role you're playing in this show. Just the emotional arc your character takes.
Yeah.
And you sing and you dance and you act. And your character is so volatile and emotional. I mean, how do you do that 8 times a week?
I always say it's a mixture of prayer and coconut water. That's the only way, just for the sheer energy it takes to go on such an emotional roller coaster like that, and then the physical sort of how strenuous it can be with the choreography, and the singing is just I'm screaming for an entire show. And for me also, this being my first lead role on a Broadway show, and also coming from a heavy dance background and never really having studied acting that much, for me this is my first time to really sink my teeth into a character that has helped me heal myself through David, and through his pain, his torture, some of his story that I even relate to. I get to deal with some of my own traumas, some of my own pains and things that I've gone through in my life that I maybe never got a chance to really think about, really give voice to. I remember having the sensation one time when I was in the ensemble of another show, and it's I feel like I need to go somewhere and scream.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what it meant, but I remember praying that, and I wanted to do it on the stage. I felt like I had that on my heart to say. And years later, God gives me this chance to get these pains off literally scream from my heart. to release sort of these burdens. And it kind of ties into what I feel like David really went through, why he sounded the way he sounded, why he freed so many people with this like awesome, very unique tone of voice, but also sort of the demons he was dealing with. I love it's completely therapeutic and fulfilling to play such a, I feel, a well-rounded man. Like we get to see his charisma, his sexiness, his swag, his fun, his brotherhood, but also we really dig into the demons that, you know, we talk about what he was facing growing up with a father who beat on him and his mother and things like that, especially coming out of a gospel church kind of setting. It's just, he's such a colorful character in the best and the worst of ways, and I wouldn't want to do anything else.
How did you find the voice you were going to sing with?
Oh man, I remember the audition. I came in for this role right when I had finished Hairspray Live, which is a completely different type of voice, a completely different type of show. And I remember I sang through Ain't Too Proud. That was my first song they asked me to sing there. And our music director, Kenny, said, can you put a little growl on it and things like that? And I'm like, I'll try. I was like, how's this? He's like, yeah, good. Keep going with that. So throughout that process, I just started playing with these things. And then I started, cause my father's also a pastor. And I don't know if you know, if you've ever been to a black gospel church down south, when they get heated, you get the you get the rough, you get the growl, you get the gravel. My mom's also a gospel singer. So I started being able to tap into these things, these voices and these sounds that I would hear. I've heard my whole life growing up, and I never knew I could, and I also just never had the chance to do it before. But it's been fun to start to realize, oh, part of my voice actually does have a little gravel on it. And it's okay because, you know, I didn't come up through the musical theater route my whole life. I kind of fell into it. And I've been fighting to have sort of the pretty voice, you know what I mean? Sing like my colleagues, and these are brilliant performers around me, but my voice never really was that. So now I'm kind of blending in, I'm finding a new voice for myself, as well as putting in some of the texture that I grew up with to inform David's role, you know?
Your acting chops are amazing in this show.
Thank
and like
you.
you're telling me here, but you didn't have a lot of training.
No, not at all. My Broadway debut was with Derek Baskin, and I remember from that point on, I watched everything he did, copied him, and he gave me a lot of pointers. But then I started, you know, him with a lot of other people would start to like help me find out how to express myself using my words. Because as a dancer, I know how to act as a dancer. We tell a story with our body with no words. But how do I do it using my words for the first time? So over the course of time, just getting experiences and getting to watch people like him, people like Norm Lewis, people like Leslie Odom, and watch how real and subtle and still completely full-hearted in their expression they could be. Des McAnuff and Dominique, finally they gave me a chance at something, and it's been an honor to kind of go on this journey. But still, I feel approach it in the way that I do as a dancer. It's like, all right, what does it feel like? And I have to start from this real place, and now let me say it. And this is, I know it's right when it feels that real and natural to me. And if not, then all right, we got to keep working on it.
So it's like not only do you feel it as a dancer, but you feel it as an actor.
Yeah, I have to feel it. And the same with the singing it. If it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't feel truthful and honest to me, then I know it's not going to feel like that for anybody else. So it's been a learning curve for sure, and it's kind of been the blessing of being able to take this show out of town and do like a whole mini tour, because I got to keep trying things out. I got to keep failing at that. That didn't work. I keep running into my own blocks and discovering what moments didn't feel truthful to me in front of people. And I had my brothers and sisters to lean on that were there with me the whole way, encouraged me the whole way, and it's been a tremendous growth process.
Because everything you do is so truthful in this show. But like I said, you do everything in this show. Act, sing, and dance.
Yeah.
The emotional. What were the biggest challenges? I mean, you do this 8 times a week.
8 times a week, yeah. The number one challenge for sure was vocally. I've never had to lead a show vocally this way at all, let alone doing David Ruffin style singing, which is just like harsh, gut bucket, as I say. Truly grab your balls and then let it rip. And doing that, especially my first act, I lead maybe 6 or 7 songs back to back to back to back that are all like heavy hitting. I really can't tell you. I pray very hard. We have a circle up at 5 every day, and I literally just say, God, please just be here and make a miracle happen. And I just try to show up and let it be. And again, I'm working with an amazing voice teacher, and I have to say thank you to Tom and Ira and our whole creative staff. They're like, Ephraim, you're doing brilliant work, but we want to make sure we'll take care of you, so we'll get you the best of whoever we need, physical therapists, voice teachers, and all that kind of stuff. And then it's just a matter of taking care of myself in my downtime, making sure I'm not going out talking and
Yeah.
drinking and smoking and things that we know
There's
as
no
performers.
time for that.
There's no time for that. You better not, because you'll have a rough day the next day. But oddly enough, though, I think also a part of it is that David's sound. Again, I don't have to sound pretty.
Yeah.
David was known for his harshness, and I can just use that. So when I don't feel my best, it's actually sometimes when I sound most like David. So it's a matter of like, how do I breathe? That became
Interesting,
That's
yes.
the word of life throughout this process. The breathing is, for me, especially coming from a dance background, I had to really learn how to relax and let this air come in. And then you'd be surprised at how much power and energy you can have when you get more breath in your body. So I'm still learning a lot, but that's how I've gotten there so far.
What was that defining moment for you when you said, I had to be a dancer or had to be a performer? What was it for you?
I think I finally made the switch, because I always danced and sang, but I never wanted to do it. I just kind of could do it, so I always did. But it wasn't until I came to New York for the first time. I was about 15, I think it was, and I danced at the Alvin Ailey Summer Intensive. And from that point on, I saw dancers and high caliber dancers that looked like me for the first time doing like this extraordinary high art of dance and brilliant choreography, flying across these rooms. The most beautiful, amazing people I'd ever seen. And I was like, oh. And they accepted me very warmly, and I feel like this feels like home. Maybe I can make a living out of this. And so again, I went the dance route, and it wasn't until maybe getting on to Broadway, because I never had I never dreamt of Broadway. I never had interest in Broadway. I don't know why. I just never thought about it. But after my sort of dance dreams, kind of those doors closed. It's funny how God will close a door for you when He needs you to go in a different direction. And I remember wanting to get into the first company at Ailey, or like Complexions and all these other huge dance companies, and it would always be like between me and one other guy, and they'd always go with the other guy. And it was just like, I remember calling my dad. It's like, I don't know what to do. I'm here in New York, and it seems like my dreams of dance are like stopping right now because I can't get in anywhere. And the very next day, I got a phone call from The Little Mermaid saying, hey, we'd like you to come in for an audition for this part. It just so happened that one of the people that choreographed on me at Ailey, his assistant was the dance captain at The Little Mermaid. He's like, I know a guy that he sings and he's about the same height as this dude that's leaving. And that became my first taste of Broadway. And I remember getting there, it's like, oh, this is where I need to be. I can sing, I can dance, I can act, all these things I love to do, but at the same time. And I just never thought about it till it happened.
Okay, so you went to Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
That was your Broadway debut.
That's my Broadway debut.
All right, so what do you remember about that first night, like your actual debut, that first performance on?
The first thing I remember is, because you have Titus Burgess in front of me, who's blowing the roof off this place with notes I've never heard a man sing before, and we're singing Under the Sea, and I remember my highest note in the whole show was a G, and I remember that being the bane of my existence. How do I sing that high? It's like, it's impossible, and I'm blowing my brains out trying to get this note out. I remember I get to the end of this show, and I could barely speak, and I was like, how do these people do it 8 times a week? I don't even know if I can make my second show of my Broadway debut. And I was stressed out. But lo and behold, Titus Burgess is actually my first voice teacher. He heard me singing in the hall one day. He's like, come to my room. He's like, you have a great voice. I'm going to help you figure it out. And yeah, that's the hand up that I've gotten along this road, you would not believe. You would not believe. So, yeah.
You know what I love about Ain't Too Proud? It's not a jukebox musical. It is a musical.
Yes.
It tells the story of these incredible men.
Yeah.
You know, because when this first came about, we're like, oh, this will be really great. I love the Temptations music. I never knew the story of all these men.
Yeah.
Yet when I found out it was David Ruffin, Eddie Kendricks, you know, Otis Williams, like, I know these men from other things I've seen them in, but I never realized the journey they all took and how hard it was for these guys.
Yeah, I think that's the most, the fulfilling part of this show. It's especially when, you know, people come in the door with the expectations of a jukebox musical, which is a great thing, actually, in the way that, like, you're going to get your head slapped in about 20 minutes. We're going to enter in, you're going to, like, give you the your normal, what you came here for, sing a nice song for you and dance in the style of how they used to do and bring back all your happy, you know, nostalgic memories of the 60s. And then we're going to get into the way this country was really set up back then and what it was really like to be a young black man in Detroit at that time and what it was to have to leave out of the South and try to find a way for yourself and what Motown meant to that city and what, you know, these men were some of the first. Motown was it was part of the big 3 in Detroit, one of the most major companies in America in terms of the jobs they provided. So for a lot of people in the black community, it was our first time ever seeing success at all in terms of having middle to upper class influence, fame, that kind of thing. That's where we get the term pop music from. So everybody's singing along to this music without knowing that while these men were traveling around, they still had heavy hatred coming their way. They still were running from, we're talking about now, even in our own, in this day and time, how much mental health means to the world, and how even us here in America, we don't do nearly the amount of mental health work for us to be healthy like that. And these men back in the 60s, of course, weren't doing it. So when they're running from their problems and they're experiencing fame at that level for the first time ever seen in our communities, that kind of success on top of the country they were living in, which is complete civic unrest at that time. It was like they were going through hell at moments, and they were having to sacrifice, especially Otis Williams was having to sacrifice so much just to sort of stay on balance. And he literally made a promise to God, Lord, if you just let me keep doing this, I will sacrifice whatever I have to make sure we stay on track for giving us this chance. So it tells a beautiful, heartbreaking story of what this place really looked like while we were all singing this music. And at one point, we couldn't even be sitting in the same room damn near together. And because of the power of their music, we literally forced ourselves to be together and to live together, sing together, dance together. But again, it was still while these men were going through some real stuff.
And it's really entertaining.
And it's somehow still really entertaining. You're going to get all the best of the songs and the dancing and, you know what I mean, that you got from these men. But as soon as that song is over, we're going to talk about some real life stuff that I think everybody's able to relate to. Yeah.
I love the journey your career has taken.
Yeah.
Where you start off as one thing.
Yeah.
And then you move to something else. You start out in the dance world.
Yeah.
And now you're on Broadway.
Now I'm on Broadway. And
you're starring on Broadway.
I'm starring on Broadway. Now I remember I was telling the story to Jeremy and Jawan literally just yesterday, and we were just talking about our own journeys. I was like, I remember my first show in The Little Mermaid, being a dancer, and I was like, I was so nervous. I had one word that entire show, and it was my little feature, and I was so nervous, and I got a note on that one word. I had to say tuna milk, and I didn't even know how to do that right, you know what I mean? And just to go from there, and like this process, this journey to get to this place now, it's like, again, for somebody that never dreamt of Broadway at all, I would have never thought in a million years I'd be a lead of a show, let alone get a Tony nomination. It's like I didn't even know what these things were back just 10 years ago, you know? So I just say to God be the glory, and I love what I do, and that's always been what it's about. I didn't care if I was singing in somebody's garage or if it was the biggest stage in the world. It's the same to me, and that's always been sort of how I continue to go about my craft, you know?
You're starring on Broadway now.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that mean to you being a part of the Broadway community?
That's one thing that I learned quickly, and why Broadway felt like a home to me. Broadway really is a community. Yeah. We all know each other. We all love each other. We all are fans of each other. Even when we don't know each other, it's like, but because you're a part of the community, it's like we know you. You're a part of. We have a family here, and we hold on to each other tightly. We fight and advocate for each other, and it's just been a beautiful thing. Especially again, we went on this whole tour and was so well received by all these different cities, and finally get back home, and the people that have seen my whole journey were out in that house, I mean, clapping and screaming, like, wanting this to happen for me, wanting this to happen for us, embracing us so much. And that's how we treat each other, and that's how we hold each other up. And especially now during the Tony time, we're all like pushing together. And like at the end of the day, we don't really care who wins or not. We're just excited to be a part of this moment together, because being in this Broadway community, you're surrounded by people who love what they do as much as you love what you do. And we all happen to do the same thing, and we love giving it to the people. So it's an amazing community to be a part of.
Finally, if you could sum up the best part of the experience of working on this show, what's it for you? It's a big question.
That's a big question. And I have to say, I've done a bunch of different Broadway shows, and the thing that has separated this one for me a bit and continues to bring me to tears, it's two-part. It's being in a show that's written by a young black woman. I've never, you know what I mean? Like the diversity that this show is paving the way for. I'm on a stage with we're 5 young black male leads. That doesn't happen hardly ever. And then I look into the audience and I see people that also look like me too. It feels like our community has a place to come now, because a lot of times, since Dreamgirls, maybe The Color Purple, you don't see. I remember doing Hamilton, and still I didn't see people in the house that really looked like me, unless it was a Jay-Z or Beyonce that could afford the tickets. And I looked up the other day and I see an old man out there crying. He might not have cried his whole life. You know what I mean? I see an older woman. I see a young kid. He was on the edge of his seat like this, and his mother was literally looking at him like, I didn't know you had an interest in this thing. So like, I walked down the street the other day, and a young guy, maybe in his 20s, like, he couldn't even speak because he's like, you're such an encouragement to me, an inspiration. And it's like, this is really happening, and this is opening up doors for other people, for people like myself that I wouldn't have known that this to be an option unless I saw something like Ain't Too Proud. So every day I get to experience that, and it means the entire world to me.
I love your energy. I love everything about you.
Oh, I love you too.
You know, like I said, what a journey you're on. Just have the best time.
I will.
Thanks for dropping by today.
Thank you for having me.